right, hello everyone. Welcome back. We are in round 2 of our stream here at CardArt Card Shop in Sunnyvale, California. There we go. We're getting there. We're on our way. Round 2. And we've got a pretty interesting matchup. So, well, I'm Zach.
Ben.
Let's go ahead and dive in and talk about this team matchup because it's a pretty interesting one. We got some Pokemon that we don't see. Cut down a little bit.
Yeah, we've got Griffin running the Tornadus Urshifu single strike, Heatran Ursaluna, the Farigiraf, as well as the Flutter Mane, and Brandon with the Armarouge Indeedee core, Iron Bundle, the Abomasnow, Landorus-Therian, and that Iron Hand.
Iron Bundle is going to be looking to fire off some pretty powerful blizzards here. Going to be able to do a lot of damage. Very threatening. Two very threatening lead duos that Brandon has. Worry about the Armarouge Indeedee, of course, and that Iron Bundle Abomasnow, as well as the the ability of Brandon could just lead Armarouge and Iron Bundle, and then switch one of them in at a certain point. We'll have to see.
We're actually getting right into it. Game 1 is starting right now. We do see the Iron Bundle and Landorus come out from the side of Brandon, and Griffin leading off with the Flutter Mane and Farigiraf.
So a bit of a switch up. We have the Intimidate from Landorus going to be for naught, and Iron Bundle could. We're going to see Iron Bundle. Yeah, it's going to activate that booster energy and throw out some pretty big blizzards here. But Iron Bundle doesn't really like being in the face of a Farigiraf that could set up Trick Room at any moment.
It doesn't love being across from Flutter Mane. It's not going to threaten Flutter Mane with that much damage, all things considered, and Flutter Mane is going to be able to threaten Iron Bundle with solid one-hit knockout because Iron Bundle is not carrying that focus out. So it will outspeed, but it does have to be careful here.
The Iron Bundle could also go for an Icy Wind. Maybe Landorus will speed at that point and could fire off a strong stomping. Have to see. This is pretty even lead. I think both sides are probably not quite too happy about the position they're in. Some interstitial damage and maybe some switches, but definitely not in this case. We're going to see the Icy Wind is going to go down and connect on both Flutter Mane and Farigiraf here. And Landorus does, yep, as I called out, is going to go ahead and fire off Stomping Tantrum, but Flutter Mane is going to survive and fire off a Shadow Ball of its own in retaliation.
Pretty critical survival there. Shadow Ball doing a decent chunk to Landorus, and just a Dazzling Gleam follow-up from Farigiraf. So Farigiraf not electing to set up the Trick Room there, which is a little curious because now I would say Griffin's in a bit of an awkward spot.
It's tricky where, Flutter Mane is compromised here, where it can very easily get KO'd here, but Farigiraf is still in a pretty solid spot. This is a Specs Flutter Mane?
This is the Choice Specs
Yeah,
Flutter Mane.
so there's no tech option, so it might either switch or get KO'd just straight to the Icy Wind. Does connect the Fortune London, so he's going to pick up that big threatening menace of that Flutter Mane. And Bulbous Landorus is kind of fine to just do whatever here, and is just going to go for a super effective U-turn. The Farigiraf does survive that, so gets to pivot but does not get that KO.
There's a lot of damage though on Farigiraf, and Farigiraf now very low and is not going to be able to take another hit from pretty much anything else. Abomasnow going to pivot in here, and I would say that's a solid option to bring in the face of a potential Trick Room here, and the Snow will benefit the Iron Bundle as well, and we do see Trick Room.
Trick Room is going to come up here, so the Farigiraf will be the slowest thing in the Trick Room. It does get Icy Winded twice, so it will be very, very slow. And Abomasnow is a pretty nice Trick Room answer. It's a very naturally slow Pokemon itself, but Heatran is probably one of the best things you can have into an Abomasnow. Of course, 4 times resisting both the Ice and Grass attacks. And thanks to Open Team Sheet, Griffin knows that this Abomasnow does not carry Earth Power, so Heatran is quite safe in this spot. Iron Bundle being the only real thing that can damage this.
In addition, Abomasnow is Terra Ice, so it cannot terastallize away from that fire weakness, although it is importantly carrying that Focus Sash, so regardless, it will be able to take at least one hit here, but Farigiraf will definitely outspeed in Trick Room thanks to the 2 Icy Wind drops, just to protect Abomasnow.
Abomasnow does not want to get moved quite yet, want to potentially stall out some of this Trick Room, as the Psychic just going straight into the Iron Bundle. Saw how much the Dazzling Gleam did before, wants to be able to get that KO for sure. Iron Bundle is removed, so Brandon is down to 2 Pokemon with Heatran showing Flash Cannon. don't want to risk missing a heat wave there. Makes sense. But Brandon's a little bit of an awkward spot. The Iron Hands is a pretty nice option here. I would say the Fake Out is useful, but the Armor Tail on Farigiraf, that 23 HP is still enough to stop it. But Iron Hands offense is pretty potent here. Drain Punch will do nice damage to both of these.
In addition, Iron Hands notably is the Swords Dance variant, so
even more damage.
yeah, Griffin cannot just leave the Iron Hands alone. If you leave Iron Hands alone with the ability to Swords Dance, especially in Trick Room, it can and will take the game back from you. So it's not a Pokemon that you can ignore for that long. Farigiraf will at least be able to get one attack off onto it, but it's, I think, still a tricky position.
The Iron Hands, because it's carrying Swords Dance, does not have Assault Vest, so it could be taking a lot more damage from the special attacks, such as the Psychic from Farigiraf or the Earth Power from Heatran here. Abomasnow Iron Hands sort of be carrying the weight of this game for Brandon. Water type, compared to those weaknesses, but Heatran did not want to be on the receiving end of a Drain Punch. He's going to protect himself this.
Psychic from Farigiraf is going to come out to do it's a reasonable chunk of damage to Iron Hands, but nothing that Iron Hands can't heal back off with a Drain Punch, which does go into the Protect there. Which does mean Abomasnow gets to do something, and it is a Blizzard, which is going to pick up the Farigiraf and leave Heatran untouched, thanks to the Protect, not that Heatran will be that phased by a Blizzard.
Heatran doesn't, even if it gets frozen. Urshifu is going to be the final Pokemon for Griffin. We've got 2 more turns, 2 or 3 more turns of Trick Room. Iron Hands still in the preferred environments. Actually, both of Brandon's Pokemon should be on the, should be faster. There's 2 more turns of Trick Room, so for 2 more turns, they will have the speed advantage, most likely, with this single strike Urshifu and the Heatran.
Yeah, this is a bit of a tough spot for Griffin. Heatran just protected, can't really safely protect again. The good news is for Urshifu is that Iron Hands no longer resists Dark since it has shed its fighting typing. So it can Urshifu can start firing off those very powerful Sucker Punches, and we might see that now.
Urshifu is going to Terastallize to the Dark typing and just double down on all the dark evil energy here. Could do some big damage with the Sucker Punch. Exactly what we're going to see here. Into the Iron Hands. Still doesn't even do that much. Bulky to be able to fire off a big Drain Punch. Get a bit of the damage it just the punch. Abomasnow's we just fire off another Blizzard here to take that Focus Sash on Urshifu. And do half its HP. That's also important.
Heatran firing off the Flash Cannon into Abomasnow does a lot of damage. It does bring Abomasnow down to Focus Sash.
No boosts the defense, not the special defense. Not too surprising. And of course, Heatran also carrying the Life Orb there. Heatran, because of the Life Orb, will be able to survive 1 more attack. Life Orb recoil won't KO it just yet, but a Blizzard might tip the scales. But of course, Urshifu could also Sucker Punch it. Stop it. Iron Hands is still kind of unchecked.
I think Griffin's in a very tough spot here. Iron Hands is just a big ball of stats, and it's very difficult to take down. And it being Terra Water means that it doesn't have any weaknesses in the current spot. And Drain Punch is able to clean up the Urshifu, and with that, I think this game is essentially over.
All but sealed. Maybe Heatran with a critical hit could potentially pick up the KO. We'll have to see, but probably not. We'll see. But Abomasnow Brandon gets the most value we could have gone out of it. Expecting the Heatran to play defensively. Even gets the Aurora Veil on last turn of Snow. So, yeah, Iron Hands is really super hard to remove here. Or, even if you go for the Earth Power, even if this does crit, look at how little damage it does.
That's not even Assault Vest, folks. That's just Iron Hands being ridiculous all on its own. The Energy Ball is enough to pick up the Heatran, not something I typically... Oh yeah, it was a crit. It must have been the critical hit, otherwise Energy Ball would not have done that 5 damn.
It might have actually been the critical. I don't know. Heatran probably doesn't take that much because it 4 times resisted, of course, but man, that was a close game. That was a very interesting one where we saw the very quick I think, lead from Brandon and had the slower Pokemon in the back able to capitalize on the Trick Room that Griffin set up.
Yeah, Trick Room definitely benefiting Brandon more than Griffin there, which this is one of the awkward things when you have two different teams that both have their own modes of Trick Room. One team is probably going to want Trick Room more than the other team, and if you can outposition the opposing Trick Room team, especially if the other team is the one that sets up Trick Room, it can get really bad really fast.
Yeah, that's one of the tricky parts I think about playing against Brandon's team. You see the Iron Bundle, and you're like, oh, it's all the speed in the world. And of course, there's also the Armarouge and the Indeedee and the Abomasnow and Iron Hands. All of those very slow Pokemon really don't mind Trick Room at all. Sort of baited Griffin into being like, you want to set up Trick Room, you want to set up Trick Room. And he set up Trick Room, and then Brandon was able to really easily capitalize on that. And just sort of checkmate with Iron Hands. Terra Water was huge.
Yeah, that was even with Farigiraf being at -2 speed, which you would think, oh, that's great, that's amazing. It's gonna do super well in this Trick Room, but it was already pretty low. It had taken a bunch of damage, and it didn't really have a prime collection of targets in the Terra Water, Iron Hands, and the Abomasnow. We're actually getting into game 2 here, and the leads of Landorus, Indeedee from Brandon, and a Tornadus, and it's just off the screen, Urshifu for Griffin.
Yeah, so Intimidate, kind of nice. It lowers the close combat damage, but of course Surging Strikes does not care about that. So yeah, we see Griffin switching it up completely, saying, okay, Trick Room did not work. Let's just meet speed with speed, go for the Tailwind with the Tornadus right off the gate. But of course, Indeedee is going to make that a lot more of a difficult prospect because it can just click the Trick Room right here, right now.
I think Urshifu might have something to say about that from the side of Griffin. We do see a Terrastalization coming out. It is onto that Urshifu, who is going to do a lot of damage, and if Indeedee does not Terrastalize into its fairy type to resist that, that may well be happening.
Yep, we are going to see Indeedee, yeah, probably not wanting to, does not want to take that hit flying down. Going to go for the Terra Fairy, going to be able to take the hits from Urshifu so much better. Probably going to be able to survive, more importantly. The Bleakwind Storm just for a little bit of chip, put some solid damage into the Indeedee. Critical hit or just, okay, the speed drop doesn't really matter too much, but Wicked Blow from the Urshifu into the Indeedee. Yeah, the Terra Fairy being absolutely crucial there, helps it survive. Most likely going to be looking to set up the Trick Room. Even the Rocky Helmet, really nice to be able to break that Focus Sash, and the follow-up U-turn, because Urshifu dropped the Fighting type, it's now going to be taking a lot more super effective damage from that attack.
Iron Hands coming in here for Brandon, as presumably Trick Room is going to go up on this turn. Yeah, there's the Trick Room. Brandon now in what I would think is a really commanding spot. He has two Pokemon out that both resist the dark damage that Urshifu threatens, and Tornadus not threatening a ton of damage here or field control either.
Yeah, like Tornadus can Sunny Day, but I don't know what that really gets them. Yeah, Iron Hands is just in, once again, a phenomenal spot where it can do super effective damage and potentially one-hit KO both of the Pokemon on Griffin's side of the field. Indeedee's still there to disrupt and be annoying. So very, very difficult, I think. Griffin's going to definitely have to backpedal a little bit to get into a bit of a better position here, because otherwise, yeah, not really going to do too much. Urshifu kind of has to detect. It can't even Sucker Punch this turn because of the Psychic Terrain.
No, it cannot. Dazzling Gleam coming out from Indeedee, hoping to possibly pick up the Urshifu. With that, it is Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam. I think that would have been enough. Instead, just going to do some chip damage to Tornadus. And there's the Swords Dance from Iron Hands. And I feel like things just went from bad to worse for Griffin here. We do see Bleakwind Storm come out, does pick up the KO on Indeedee, but that is a free switch-in for Brandon in Trick Room here. I think that's probably what he wanted.
Potentially, we'll have to see what Pokemon Brandon has in the back. I do like that Swords Dance play. That's pretty nice. It makes a lot of sense for Griffin to sort of reposition a little bit. So picking up a Swords Dance is sort of guaranteed value out of that thing. Tornadus and Urshifu could have just double protected very easily. Now Armarouge is on the field, and Commanding Force is looking mighty fine here. Only roadblock being that Urshifu, which is very easily be KO'd by this. I think a very easy play for Brandon to make, and Griffin's going to have to find a way to weasel his way out of this.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a tough nut to crack, so to speak. You do see the Protect from Tornadus come out here, so Tornadus, at the very least, is going to stay safe on this turn. Sucker Punch is not going to work, unfortunately, because of the Psychic Terrain that Indeedee set up earlier. Drain Punch from Iron Hands is going to pick up the Urshifu there. And Armarouge can do whatever it wants here, but it is not really going to be able to get much done in the face of a Protect.
Yeah. The only viable thing that it would have wanted to attack, it could Armor Cannon its his own Iron Hands. Probably not going to be the most worthwhile play there, as you do see. Expanding Force going in. One nice thing is that Griffin does have two very good Pokemon in the back to handle this Trick Room duo, being which was Farigiraf. Tornadus is really not liking its spot here.
Tornadus doesn't really want to be here at all. It is not exerting that much pressure. None of its moves offer any sort of help for its own side. So it's in a really tough spot here, but you don't want to switch and give free damage onto something else. Heatran protecting is not going to take that Drain Punch. And critically, this is Griffin is slowly burning down the turns of Trick Room. That's important to note.
Yeah, I think that's Griffin's main game plan. Okay, don't switch. Attack the Pokemon that you have out. As we see here, Tornadus getting cleanly one-hit KO'd by the Expanding Force. Critical Hit might have played an important role there, depending on the training of that Tornado. Yeah. Brandon's in full like stall mode, played defensively. That's Brandon minimize the amount of damage that these two Pokemon in particular take because these two, despite being relatively slow, could be faster with the Armarouge Iron Hands. Yeah, Heatran is probably going to have to do a quite... Psychic Terrain does boost the Psychic onto the Iron Hand. That's a big Drain Punch.
That is a lot of damage from Drain Punch. In case you forgot about the Sword Stance, there it is. Iron Hands back up to full HP now. Psychic from Farigiraf is Psychic Terrain boosted, goes into hands and puts it right back where it started this turn at. The special defense drop may end up mattering. We will see. Earth Power from Heatran actually underspeeding Armarouge. That's important to note for a potential game 2. Armarouge is just cleanly taken out there.
That is a lot of damage. That Life Orb definitely paying dividends there. Yeah, that was the last turn trick. Now both players move slower than the Armarouge. Both Pokemon in roughly the same speed. So that is a pretty important speed interaction to know here. Landorus, though, is coming out right on time. Trick Room just ended. Could be the fastest thing on the field and can now threaten this Heatran with a very powerful stomping.
The nice thing for Griffin is that they do not have
Terra's gone.
Terrestrialization was burned on the Urshifu. I was going to say, oh, Heatran can now Terra Grass here, and that's okay. It is not actually okay. Heatran is threatened by a lot, and Griffin's sort of in an awkward spot where he kind of wants to reset Trick Room so that you can better deal with the Landorus, but if you do that, you're pinned between the Iron Hands and the Landorus, and that's really difficult. Stomping Tantrum is just going to pick up Farigiraf, so that's not an option. Heat Wave goes off and is enough to pick up the Iron Hands, so maybe there's an out here?
We'll have to see. It doesn't do quite enough damage to that Landorus. That Assault Vest coming in play well there. Now the Stomping Tantrum probably is just enough to KO that Heatran. Maybe a Heat Wave Burn might have been what Griffin might have had to play for. But Heat Wave Burn, not the most reliable thing, does not quite get it in the spot. So it should be a Landorus Stomping Tantrum out this game. I like the Stomping Tantrum into the Farigiraf. That one does not. Farigiraf does not have Protect, so take easy KO and reduce the follow-up. Just
bit of an unfortunate ending there. I think the Heat Wave Burn could have possibly, I admit I don't know the calc on that. It could have
Heatran's bulk
could have possibly saved it. Heatran has a lot of bulk typically.
It depends on the training, of course.
Maybe that could have brought us to a game 3.
Yeah, but I think, man, Brandon just played that really, really well. Just sort of felt one step ahead pretty much the whole set where, in the beginning of game 1, baiting out the Trick Room and then capitalizing on it, and then just saying, okay, you're not going to do that again in game 2. Just set up Trick Room himself and then capitalized on it again.
Yeah, definitely made the better use of Trick Room in both of those games, whether you have your opponent set it up or you set it up yourself. Whoever takes the most advantage of those 5 turns when they're set up is probably going to end up winning the game, and I think we saw that pretty convincing.
Trick Room can definitely be threatening, especially with things like Iron Hand. Iron Hands was just so useful that whole set. The Swords Dance, making sure that the Drain Punches were going to do huge damage the entire time. And Terrafarion, the Indeedee, also super impactful. But that's all we got for round 2 here. We're going to be back pretty shortly with round 3, so don't go anywhere.